Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys like this video, live stream, whatever you want to call it, down below. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. We have a great show tonight. We have a decent amount to talk about. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump hitting back at all of his critics post-indictment, shifting his messaging to exactly where it needs to be. We'll fill in some of these updates. Are we going to see a fourth indictment? Probably. We'll probably see a fifth and a sixth and a seventh and an eighth at this rate. Who knows? But it's all nonsense, and the more indictments they pile on, the less merit that it really seems like any of them tend to have. We also have Ron DeSantis. I promised that we'd stop talking about him as much. I promised, because it seems like this nomination is all but locked up for Donald Trump. He's not even debating. He's focusing mainly on the general election. He's focusing mainly on Biden. Yes, he'll take a side swipe at Ron DeSantis from time to time, but either way, DeSantis' campaign got utterly exposed last week, and nobody really talked about it, so we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be talking about his recent comments on invading third world countries, caring more about what's going on in the Middle East, and feelings that people are hurting in the Middle East over what is actually taking place here at home. And on top of that, we're going to get to all of your super chats. Make sure you like up that stream and make sure you guys send in super chats. Any questions you guys have, we're going to get through these topics pretty quickly, ideally. So from there, the rest of the stream will be talking directly to you, the American people, better known as the subscribers and viewers of this channel. So without further ado, we have 250 live viewers in chat. Ron DeSantis can only break 11 on his own channel. Very interesting. But on top of that, we're going to be getting into a lot of stuff. But first things first, we need to talk about Donald Trump hitting back, the messaging, how he's going to go down the stretch, put these indictments on his back, and win in 2024, because that's what he's going to have to do. They're going to be going at this guy with everything they have, and they've been doing it for years, and they still have to twist the law. They have to bend the law to back this man into a corner because they can't beat him. That's the only way. I mean, they're trying to bring Trump down for years now, and we know that. We see this with all the fake investigations, the insurance policy back in 2016 that they put into place with the Steele dossier, with the Russia hoax, and then the lies during his presidency, the social media fortification, and other elements that we saw 3 years ago leading up to the 2020 election. And then we see them removing him from social media. He could not access the American public before the midterms. And then on top of that, they're raiding his home over something that they didn't really have to raid his home over. And now they're trying to lock him up and throw away the key. This is not about him getting the nomination anymore. He's already got the nomination locked up. That's not why he's being indicted. This is not some Democrat 4D chess that they're trying to employ. This has to do with bringing him down and reducing his credibility in the general election. So anybody who's made that claim, which again, I understand, and even back then I was like, maybe they are just indicting him to help him like get through the primary, but then they're going to pile on him in the general, whatever. I said, maybe it's true. I don't know. Obviously, I think he's still the more viable candidate. They want to use the term electable. Either way, doesn't matter. I don't like using their terminology too much, but still, for electability purposes, I'll take Trump from a prison cell over Ron DeSantis at this rate, especially given recent developments in the DeSantis campaign and just the way that he's just running his campaign into the ground. It's like a chicken with the head cut off. It's so incompetent. They reduce all of these staff hires that they viewed to be illegitimate. Now apparently they're scamming people with fake employment, allegedly, from what I've seen on Twitter. I don't know if this is proven. Obviously, for legal purposes, we don't know. But it's not a good look, whatever's going on in the DeSantis campaign. And there's a reason why his poll numbers are in the gutter, despite running up against somebody who allegedly, according to his own people, lost to a dementia patient and is going to go to prison, which now they're cheering that on, by the way. They're happy that Trump's being investigated. They want to see him out of the way. But even then, DeSantis isn't even like going to be in second place for very much longer, to the point where even if you get Donald Trump out of the way, and even if he had to drop out somehow, DeSantis likely would not even become the nominee. But nevertheless, great messaging from Trump. Trump goes out there. He's talking to a dinner in the South Carolina Republican Party, which, again, that's a very early primary state. It's going to be one of the first three, I believe. I don't know if they're going to be changing the order around a whole lot. It's not fully set in stone. But either way, it's a very early, consequential primary state. And he goes out there. He's not attacking DeSantis too much. He'll take a side swipe here and there, and that's fine and that's good and whatever. But what does he say? He says, crooked Joe Biden. So he's using the word crooked for Joe now, which, again, that was the terminology he used for Hillary Clinton in 2016. And it really did stick because she was involved in a lot of shady business dealings, and Biden has been as well. And he's a career politician, globalist hiding. He hides in the basement. He's a globalist, whatever. That was my nickname for him back in 2020. I think it still rings true given the events of his presidency. But nevertheless, what does he say? Crooked Joe Biden only cares about enriching his own family. I care about enriching your family, which is true. And all of these indictments, a lot of it, you're seeing this come from a regime that is on its last legs, and they know it. That's why they have to indict him. That's why they have to use their political power against us. We don't do it against them as much as we should. That's our problem, but they're not willing to really, take their foot off the gas when it comes to bringing down DJT, and we're seeing that right now. But you're looking at it from the left. Trump is hitting back hard, and he released an ad recently as well, where he's put out all these DAs, talked about how they're letting all these criminals run free, but in turn, they're wasting their time trying to bring down their number one political opponent at the demands of the current regime in power. Because we could say it's Biden. Biden doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what the White House is at this point. He doesn't know what a president is. He's just there. And even if he does know, his brain goes in and out. They have to feed him ice cream for his memory. And that's true. But Biden is demented. Biden is crazy. But he's kind of like this figurehead of this regime. They could put him out there. They could put sunglasses on him. He could stand in front of the media for 5 seconds. And that's kind of all the public will ever see. He's the puppet. But it's mainly the whole apparatus. Some people will use the term deep state, the administrative state within our federal government, and a lot of them are these lackeys of the Democrat Party, and they work under Biden. They've been hired for a reason. They've taken power. Many of them were in power under Trump's administration. You talk about draining the swamp being a long process. Clearly, the swamp wasn't drained nearly enough as it should be, but nevertheless, a little bit beside the point. What we know is that Trump is going on the offense against Biden. He's not playing defense. And obviously, there's a lot of Republicans in the Republican establishment as well who have gone out of their way and have done everything they could do to not just stand with Trump or defend Trump, but to just trash Trump for what they believe to be political points in a Republican primary because they're dumb. They possibly have a lower IQ, functioning IQ, than Joe Biden at this point. If they believe attacking Trump, not just attacking him on something like, I don't know, he did this wrong during his presidency, or he did that wrong in terms of an issue where the right viewed him to be insufficient on. What they are doing is they are attacking Donald Trump on some things that you usually would see CNN attack him on. And they're trying to play into that resist lib mindset, the resist lib angle, and utilize that to their advantage in a Republican primary. Are they dumb? The answer is obviously yes, because there's no way that a smart person would do that. We saw Mike Pence go out there and say, well, these indictments prove that Trump's not above the Constitution. Look at me. I'm the golden boy now. I did what CNN wanted, whatever. So that's that. He's not just saying, oh, well, it was unfortunate, but I had to, hand over the piece of paper. back in 2021, what he goes out there and he constantly says is, oh, well, I'm going to do this, apology tour on CNN. I'm going to do everything I can to distance myself from my former boss, who basically saved his career, because Pence was no guarantee for or even a re-election victory back in Indiana in 2016. He helped Donald Trump galvanize a portion of the GOP base who he needed to at the time, which was good. I'm not saying he was the worst VP pick ever, but when you look into it, he is very much an establishment guy. He is very much a neoconservative, and you look at what he said recently about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. I don't care what's happening at home. That's a big gaffe right then and there. That's a disqualifier in really any way, shape, or form. And even if Biden went out there and said something that dumb, he possibly would make himself DOA in a lot of people's minds, because that's going to be playing all over the entire nation, basically leading up between now and the 2024 election. But even Biden is not that dumb politically as Mike Pence, and these recent elements of that kind of shining through here kind of put that on display. So what does Trump do? Trump hits back at Mike Pence, and rightfully so. Wow, it's finally happened. Little Mike Pence, a man who was about to be ousted. And I love this part. I love how he had to throw that in there, because it's true. If you look at the polls, Pence was no guarantee for victory there. You had a Democrat who was running against Pence, who actually only lost by like 5 to 10 points against Eric Holcomb, the current governor. But he said, a man who was about to be ousted as governor Indiana, I assume he meant governor of Indiana, until I came along and made him my VP, has gone to the dark side. And I like how dark side is capitalized like it's some proper noun. I never told a newly emboldened, not based on his 2% poll numbers, Pence to put me above the Constitution, or that Mike was too honest. He's delusional, and now he wants to show he's a tough guy, which is true. Delusion. The fact that anybody's in this race besides Trump is a delusion. I understand the ambitions of people who may have wanted to test the waters. Okay, whatever. DeSantis should have seen the poll numbers already going down before his announcement. That was a joke of an announcement in May, and he should have stood down. He should not have ran, and he probably at that point would have still been in the good graces of a lot of the base. But in turn, he didn't. The reason why Trump went on offense against Ron DeSantis was because he knew DeSantis would be his opponent. He knew there was this effort to prop up DeSantis at the expense of Donald Trump, and that's why you had the rift between the two. That's why Trump called him DeSanctimonious. That's why Trump's been attacking him. It's not entirely been unprovoked. And then DeSantis gets in and his numbers drop because then more people get acquainted with him. Obviously, people may like the idea of a Ron DeSantis. Maybe they view him as Trump without the controversy. But when you look at the reality of Ron DeSantis, he's not Trump. And he does bring his own baggage and controversy with him. And not only that, people call Trump incompetent. Have you seen the DeSantis campaign? Talk about incompetence. The only reason why DeSantis was competent enough to win Florida in the first place is because Trump sent down his people, which now he completely denies. Whatever, that's beside the point. Let's get back to this. He said, I once read a major magazine article on Mike. It said he was not a very good person. I was surprised, but the article was right. Sad. So that's funny. He's being funny, Trump. And he's hitting back on his critics. And he's going on offense. He is, because he's being hit from all sides. He's going to be hit in the primary about this. Even like the Democrats in 2016 were not dumb enough to hit Hillary on the email stuff. Bernie completely avoided that. But because taking down Trump is like the number one objective in a lot of these DC type of Republicans' minds. That's what they're going to do. But these people are dumb. They don't live in reality. They don't represent the interests of your average voter, your not just working class, but also like middle class Republican voter. They don't represent the same mindset. And as a result, they wonder why they keep losing. They wonder why. They'll blame Trump, but they'll never look in the mirror. They'll never look in the mirror at themselves. Oh, well, these Trump candidates winning the primaries. Let's say they're right and that their candidates happen to be unelected, or that Trump's candidates happen to be unelectable, whatever. Let's completely cede that territory to them, which is not true. But still, for the sake of the argument, let's say it's true. Why exactly do you keep getting decimated by them in these primaries despite outspending them by a ridiculous amount? I mean, that's a real question. And we know the answer because they're just out of touch with the base. And then they get mad. They don't step in the general. They don't fund them in the general. They don't help them in the general. Then they like barely lose a swing state. And then they throw a temper tantrum and say, I told you so. I told you so. Whatever. Okay. That's beside the point. We're going to move on to talk about Ron DeSantis for probably the next 10 minutes. And then we'll get to your super chats because you guys have sent in, it seems like, quite a few already. And keep them coming. We'll get to all of them in about 10 minutes or so. I've not forgotten about the super chats, but we are getting through the topics here tonight pretty quickly. So up next, DeSantis goes out there and does a town hall in New Hampshire. And we talk about DeSantis being somebody that has an interventionist foreign policy record in Congress. He had a mixed record. There were times where he would vote against things. Mainly it was on a partisan line basis. And there were times where he would vote for more interventionist legislation, not pulling troops out here, putting more troops in here, etc. We know this. And Trump's foreign policy, was Trump 100% perfect? Not necessarily. He was lied to by the Pentagon. There were other things that happened. He got out of the Iran debacle unscathed, which kind of proves that's kind of a bonus for Trump either way. And he took out their lead general. He got away with it. That's Teflon Don at his finest right there. But Trump's foreign policy altogether was great. He definitely didn't start a new war. He helped us pull out of other wars. We would not have pulled out of Afghanistan if it was not for Trump de-escalating it. And obviously Biden completely fumbled the ball when it came down to that. But nevertheless, what we do know is that we talk about foreign policy and all these other candidates kind of being like these unknown entities regarding it, and Trump having the upper hand there regardless. Now you look at what's going on here, because DeSantis was asked a question and then he goes on this tangent and he says, we're going to go after all these third world countries. He says, we're going to go after these third world countries that have become hotbeds of anti-Semitism. And this is a part of a longer kind of tangent that he was going on. But nevertheless, it's not out of context. He said this word for word, that we're going to allegedly, under a DeSantis administration, never going to exist, by the way, we're going to go after these third world countries. When you say go after for any reason, because it sounds like the people that say, well, we need to go after, we need to support gay rights in Afghanistan, these like neoliberals and even like these NEOCONs, which are turning more socially liberal, will say, oh, we need to instill democracy in this region. We need regime change. We need this. We need that. DeSantis is kind of shining through some of his more interventionist tendencies, which he may have because he's been this unknown entity. Regarding Ukraine, he gave a speech that was, or he didn't give really a speech, but Tucker was asking all the candidates questions back in the day, and we covered this at the time, of what they would do regarding the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And DeSantis said, oh, well, we're not going to give them a blank check, and we don't want to push them into the hands of China, which both of those things are good things. Not going to knock them, but he doesn't say, oh, we're going to stop, or we're going to stop, sending money there. And then when he goes on Piers Morgan's show, he completely leans into the Ukraine side, and then he starts, pushing Russia into the hands of China again with his rhetoric. Oh, we don't want to deal with this authoritarian gas station attendant, which is the same rhetoric that was used by Romney and the same rhetoric that was used by McCain, the neocons that came before Ron DeSantis. DeSantis has a lot to prove that he's not one of those people. You can do whatever you can as governor that's socially conservative, and we may praise it from time to time as we did. But nevertheless, when you get to the national stage, you're with the big dogs now. You're with the big boys. And if you're more in line with them when push comes to shove, it shows a lot. So what he's saying is, hey, we need to go after these countries. So either way, he's spending more time caring about what some people in some third world country have to say about groups of people that probably don't even exist in high numbers, if at all, in those third world countries. That's what he's doing. He's talking about policing the world And this is kind of the problem that we've been facing within the Republican Party for quite some time. We used to be this party that was completely filled with these neocons, and thankfully because of Trump, and I think even the Tea Party may deserve some credit as well, you see a lot less pro-interventionists. You see a lot more America First Republicans in the Republican Party. When you look at somebody like DeSantis, there's been a lot of questions. Is he a neocon or is he America First? When he's giving answers like this, kind of leans more into the neocon side of things. That's what it is. And that's not a good thing. It's really not. You're talking about these other countries. What is he talking about? These third world countries, talking about the hotbeds of anti-Semitism. What does that really refer to? Probably refers to the Middle East. And he's going to want to send more money overseas to these other countries that tend to have lower GDP or lower debt to GDP ratios than us. They could take care of themselves. That shouldn't be our financial concern. DeSantis is not exactly in support, it seems, of reducing foreign aid. In fact, I think he wants to increase it. And I know Trump sent foreign aid during his presidency from time to time, but you're talking about somebody who's willing to go out there and talk about increasing it altogether, probably going to increase it across the board when the budget gets to his desk regarding Ukraine aid. He's probably just going to sign off on it and pretend like he's not increasing the money that goes there. We know how this thing works. We know how it shakes out at the end of the day. You can say, well, DeSantis is just supporting the moral good worldwide or whatever. And it's like, we've heard that tagline how many times, time and time again. That's not the point. It completely misses the point. This has nothing to do with, if we don't support sending money overseas, then we support people getting called mean words on the internet. It's like, no, it's not how it works, and that's completely just a non sequitur argument. This has to do with where your intentions lie. Are you with America, or are you with interest groups? Are you with sending money, sending blank checks overseas and intervention? Because you talk about going after these third world countries. Typically, we've seen that in our lifetime. That's full-scale intervention at the hands of a non-existent DeSantis administration. So what it does is it kind of proves that altogether, yes, a DeSantis administration would not really have the America First Trumpian foreign policy. And this is not the only example that we've seen from Ron DeSantis. And they said it's out of context. I saw the full clip. I understand what he's talking about. They asked him a question about anti-Semitism, and then he says all these things, and then he goes on a tangent where he talks about going after these third world countries. That's not out of context. That's something he adds into a long rant, but taking a 5-second clip from a long rant that kind of exposes DeSantis' true intentions does not exactly demonstrate that the clip is out of context. In fact, it's perfectly in context, and it's kind of showcasing his intentions. So more on the DeSantis campaign. We're not going to talk about the potential new scandal that we've been hearing about on Twitter today. It's kind of been under the radar. People are saying that there, allegedly, there may be some, jobs that are being offered that I don't know what's going on. Doesn't matter. We're not going to talk about that for legal purposes, at least not yet. But DeSantis got exposed. They always talked about, we're never going to have leaks. They'd put Pushaw out there on stage, and she would say, our campaign is airtight. There's never going to be any leaks from us. And there's been many leaks from them because they're so incompetent. They're so up their own rear end. That's why the campaign even exists in the first place. The audacity that they believe that they have a chance in this race, they don't. They don't, and they're ruining any possible career at the national level that Ron DeSantis may or may not had leading up to 2028 or whatever. But it doesn't matter. Either way, you're looking at this, and they are trying to artificially astroturf memes. They're paying influencers to post memes for them, basically. And they're kind of in coordination with it. Remember the Black Sun video they posted, the hype edit for DeSantis that had the Wojaks, and then they had the Black Sun symbol, which was used by the Azov battalion, used by Nazis and things like that. And they were under fire for it. And not only did they actually make that video. They promoted the video, and now we find out that they lied about making that video. They made the video, they posted it, they retweeted it, I guess reposting it now because Twitter does not exist anymore. Thank you, Elon. But they also lied about it because at the time they said it has nothing to do with our campaign. Well, it apparently does because it was made from these group chats that were, it was posted online. The War Room creative ideas with the red alligator. Like, that's going to relate to somebody in Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, your red alligator for your campaign. He doesn't even resonate with Florida primary voters, by the way. Just throwing that out there. He's down in Florida. He's down everywhere. He has zero shot. He may end up in 4th place by the end of the year at the rate that he's going. And they're trying to get people to promote these, like, awful memes that aren't good. They're not good memes. They try to make DeSantis look cool. They don't make him look cool. They make him look like it's honestly like you take the guy who's like one of the biggest awkward dorks in the room and you're trying to make them look palatable. You're trying to make them look cool. In many cases, that's not how it works. It doesn't work. You can put as much like hype music behind him. You could have as many Wojaks in the meme. It's not going to make a difference. It's really not. And what they're doing is just they're trying to make DeSantis seem like this awkward guy who, because they're not actually working to kind of diminish that image, so it makes him look even more awkward. And they're pushing him kind of like too far to the right on some issues where he's unpalatable to the general electorate on some things, which is pretty funny because the whole idea for DeSantis, oh, he doesn't have baggage, oh, he'll get the independents, and then his numbers with independents go down. Like, I might agree with the one meme that they posted about Trump being too weak on the alphabet issues. I agree with that 100%. It's ironic because DeSantis, when you look into it, he's the one sending onesies to the kids of a lot of these gay influencers. Trump's never done that as far as I'm concerned. But either way, you're looking at it and it's like these memes aren't helping, and they're paying these accounts that have, in some cases, like a couple 100,000 followers to repost them. And it's all just proof that this whole campaign is astroturfed. It's all astroturfed, and it's not working. It's biting DeSantis in the rear end. This article is right when they say inside the meme video operation that swallowed Ron DeSantis' campaign. So his campaign is doing this. Everything is astroturfed. It's been astroturfed for years, and it's going to keep being astroturfed. They dox people. They're nasty people. They know they're losing. They've always been losing, and they've been acting more insufferable than the most insufferable resist libs that we saw during Trump's presidency, to the point where it's like, if you interact with these people for any amount of time, you just begin to despise them. And from there, it just like proves that this campaign is dead on arrival, as it's always been, because it's astroturf. You can't astroturf a campaign on Twitter and have that translate to real life success. You can't. Like, Trump used Twitter in 2016. That's true, but that was like an auxiliary. He was out there getting free media coverage because of things that he was saying. He was being bombastic. He was out there talking about issues that were not exactly talked about, and he was laying a vision down for the country. I don't see any of that from Ron DeSantis. I see a lot of insufferable people propping him up on social media and then causing his numbers to somehow go down. And it is what it is. It's laughable. But they're doing that. They're going out there and they're just taking L after L after L. And it comes to a point where we talk about them less and less because they're not as relevant. And they know that. I mean, there's some of their people that are just never Trump or switching to Tim Scott. And it's like everything that I've ever said about this campaign, everything that we've talked about for the past even 2 years or so regarding a potential DeSantis-Trump matchup, which I still didn't believe would happen, but now that it's happening, it's like, yeah, this is political suicide. It's like it's just a kamikaze. That's all it is. A $200 million kamikaze that's not going anywhere. And DeSantis' career, his campaign is over, and I don't even know what's next to to really hold for him. I mean, he's going to be governor of Florida for the next 3 years, but after that, where does he go? It's like the Ted Cruz thing. At least Ted Cruz, after losing in 2016, could run for re-election in 2018, and he's going to likely, obviously, be running for re-election again. What is DeSantis going to do? Maybe he'll go for Senate or something like that. I mean, we'll have to see about that. I mean, the bench in Florida is growing to the point where DeSantis may not even get that nomination if he does decide to ever go for Senate. But still, that's beside the point. We'll see what happens. But nevertheless, we'll have to get to Super Chats because we have a lot of Super Chats that we have to get to. And we're 30 minutes in. So nevertheless, here we go. Bad people do exist, says Larry Elder, still running. I've heard nothing but radio silence about him. I think he is, but I don't know why he's running. Again, a lot of these people, is it like for a book deal? What are they doing? Because they're not really gaining a whole lot of traction in the race. And they don't really have and none of these people have what it takes to usurp Trump. And you think they would know that, but apparently for some reason they don't. And as a result, a lot of people are going out there and making a fool out of themselves. Like, say what you will about Vivek, and he's kind of showed that he may not be as populist as he claims to be with some of his recent trade and immigration comments. But nevertheless, I can tell he's running for like a cabinet position. I can tell that he's trying to raise his name recognition for something in the future. Like a lot of these other people, I just really don't know what they're doing. They're just entering something to lose. Obviously, maybe it's for the money. In the case of Chris Christie, it's about the food, you name it, whatever. King Minor, thank you for 5. For the 5 there. Perth Luxury says Andrew Tate for VP running mate for the Lols. Hudson Dean says if Vivek isn't in Trump's cabinet, could he be governor of Ohio in 2026? That is his home state. Technically, he could be. I don't see why he possibly couldn't. Would he be guaranteed a nomination? No. Maxwell JW says, if there's more shenanigans during election night, can we beat it with high enough turnout? We'll beat it like North Carolina, you said in a tweet from a long while ago referring to 2020. Well, we need high turnout regardless. We have to play the game we're in, and we can win the game we're in, and we have to have the mindset where we're slightly behind, so we're going to go out there and win, and we got to vote early. We got to vote. We got to make sure that we can harvest where necessary. Where they're going to be harvesting, we need to do it, and that's how we win. We have to play election month, not election day. They've been playing election month. I don't like election month, but it's not going away unless we can win an election and get rid of it. So you have to play the game you're in. Trump knows this. Trump's changed his tune on it. He's been talking about this for months now, and a lot of other people are as well. And people that aren't at this point, I have to say, are kind of in the, I guess you would say, controlled opposition category, because why are they not promoting this? Because they should be promoting early voting. They should be promoting the same things the left has been promoting, because we can't win unless we're playing the game that we're in. Mike M. said, if you saw the video, what are your thoughts on the California 7-Eleven workers who beat a robber with a stick until the criminal started crying? I may have seen that. I'm not entirely sure. But, this is what happens. You don't have proper policing in a lot of these places. People are going to take matters into their own hands. And in that case, it seems like they did the right thing. If you have somebody that's going to be entering your house at night, in many states, it's legal to respond with lethal force for an obvious reason, because they're breaking into your house and it's like castle doctrine or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, if somebody breaks into your 7-Eleven, they're stealing some people. Yeah, they're probably, I would say, wise to contain them if they're able to. It can be very dangerous too. In many cases, it really depends on if they are carrying or not. In the case of California, they probably aren't compared to some other states, but it is what it is. Jedit McSwag says, what happened to your stream from the other day? Well, it never happened, obviously. Life happens, life comes up, I know. The DM Production says, do you think Trump and Republicans can take out the big Hollywood unions? Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot more that's wrong with Hollywood than just unions. But can they take them out? It depends. It really depends on what they can do. I mean, isn't that more of like a state issue anyways? Wouldn't that have to be like a California thing? And we're not going to get any conservative leadership there anytime soon. So sounds Spartan for 20 says DeSantis and Paul Ryan can take turns changing McConnell's depends. I blame every one of the losses of the 22 defeats on Mitch McConnell. We had great candidates. If he would have supported them, the House and Senate would be American, not Democrat. Well, McConnell's only responsible for the Senate. He's not responsible for the House, obviously. And when it comes down to it, we did have clear opportunities in Nevada, which was missed out on. Pennsylvania was a disaster for a wide variety of reasons, but Nevada should have been won. Georgia should have been won outright. But yeah, there was a horrible misplacement of funds that directly, why are we sending money to Ohio? Why are we sending money to Alaska? Why does Tim Scott get to have $100 million for South Carolina where he wins by 35 points anyways? Like, the fact is our donors are dumb. They don't know what they're doing. In fact, they do know what they're doing because they actively play sabotage. And that's a problem. They'll blame Trump, but they're the ones doing it to not only themselves, but also the country as a whole. Miss Winnie says, Tucker knew everything about Pence is false. Creepy as hell. I've been around him a lot and always felt that he is a totally sinister figure, craven and dishonest. Well, he plays this nice guy role, obviously. He's been doing that for a while, but there's some like undertone that is kind of a little off-putting, I guess you would say, when you look at it. And I think that his ability to turn on a dime like that is kind of further proof of that. Captain Crusader says, unrelated, but is the issue one vote in Ohio going to be an easy win? Or it looks like the abortion referendum in Kansas, dooming about it. Well, I've been dooming about it. I haven't been talking about it because I don't expect it to pass. And we'll probably go live on Tuesday, as we always do. And we'll cover it. But it does seem bleak. I mean, and I understand why it would be something that fails because they have the money on their side for it. They have the donor money for the no vote. And the yes vote would make sure that it's like 60% threshold, which obviously I don't even like referendums as a whole. But a 60% threshold, if you're moving something from 50% to 60%, well, that's good for us. The average voter, if it doesn't understand anything, is going to look at this and they're going to say, hey, well, we're going to lose power if we do this as a voter. And that's what they're saying in their like normie brain. And as a result, I think it's not the best look with all the money and all the ads and the way they're spinning it to the point where it's unlikely that it passes. I want it to pass, but it's unlikely that it actually passes. Sam Madsen says, it may seem like no big deal, but a few nights ago we had about the 13th straight special election that we underperformed in. We need to stop that so we can build some momentum or we're screwed. Well, we have the low propensity base. They don't turn out for these little things, and it's not a good thing. And as a result, we're losing more and more power every ensuing election. Wisconsin is like the tip of the iceberg for that we saw, not counting the 2022 midterms. But every single special election or off-year election that we've had, we don't show up. Their turnout's not even that good. We just are underperforming, which is a big problem. And it doesn't even matter about, the quality of the candidate themselves, because we've seen candidates of all different qualities, even by their logic, underperform. So, Security TV says, is it just me, or are all the other candidates running against Trump sounding the same way when they talk, like they're all selling the same cheap product? And when Pence talks, I feel like we're closer to World War III. Well, that's exactly what it's about. Now, thankfully, they're not going to win. Thankfully, they don't have a shot. They don't have a chance. And it's just like, it's honestly sad. It's like, why? What are they auditioning for? They're not auditioning for VP in many cases, because they're the ones going out there attacking Trump 24/7. And they're just out there trying to pretend like Trump doesn't exist. And then they have their post-Trump GOP, which is no different than, in many cases, the 2008 or 2012 Republican Party that consistently kept losing. oh, well, you won the low turnout midterms in 2010 and 2014. Congratulations. We don't live in that era anymore. As much as I would like to, we don't live in that era. And if we did, we probably would do even worse in the midterms given our current coalition. Shout out to Bruce Rice, member for 4 months now. You guys can become a member if you want that channel badge by hitting the join button, or if you're on your phone, the link's in the description, or you can become a website member. You won't get a badge, but you'll get all my exclusive videos at redeaglepolitics.com, $5 a month for both. It says, greetings from Iowa, MAGA. Thank you for the member chat. Do we have any more member chats? I think that might be the only one so far. Miss Winnie says, DeSantis refused to fire Florida MD Alina Alonso, but says he would have fired Fauci in 2020. In 2021, he said this continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Exactly. They have no grounds to talk on COVID because they fell in line with much of what Trump did that they criticize. And then they want to claim the moral high ground, and they want to keep talking about the COVID response. It's like, was it better than New York's? Yes. I know Trump tried to say otherwise. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Was it better than California's? Yes. Was it better than a lot of blue states? Yes. Was it better than like your average red state? Marginally. I mean, there were other governors that did probably better things regarding COVID, had better performances overall, and they don't exactly get a lot of credit for it. But DeSantis is just that, good with was that good with public relations. And why? Because he had the same establishment conservative media running cover for him for his entire first term, because they knew, oh, well, this is going to be the guy to get rid of Trump. And how did that pan out exactly? Not very well. Not very well. John Waffle says, worst case scenario, I think Hawley, etc. will need to jump in the race late if Trump is forced out. I don't think he's going to get forced out. Trump is going to go down from prison if he's to like lose a primary, if they're trying to put him away. They're not going to put him away. They've got a lot of legal resources that are going to push the trials back and back and back. And then worst case scenario, Trump gets convicted. But somehow, imagine if he's president, what does he get to do? He gets to pardon himself. Imagine if he wins the election from prison, then pardons himself, and then goes to the White House. That's a movie. That's a book right there. You couldn't write that script, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to come to it. I think they're trying to drain his bank account. They're trying to create these scandals in the media that really shouldn't even be scandals. And if you want to even call them that, they're kind of closed cases. So Zachary G says, which candidates do you see will get behind or endorse Trump? Obviously, Vivek would before the primaries are over. Probably we're going to see maybe Elder. I don't really know. Like, I don't think you're going to see people like Nikki Haley or Tim Scott get behind Trump over DeSantis unless they just see that he's going to be the nominee instantly and they want like to audition for the VP spot, which they're probably not going to get. So whatever. Samuel Harrison says best states to move to in 2023. We see this a lot. It honestly changes every year. It depends. Like I've said, you want a place that has a low cost of living. You want a place that has relatively low crime, a place where you want to live in. If people like mountains, I'm not going to say go to Texas because there's not a lot of mountains in Texas, or go to Florida. But if people want beaches or whatever, I probably would say Florida. If people want to live in the cold, if I want negative 20-degree temperatures, move to Fairbanks, Alaska for all I care. I mean, that's the way it is. Now, if you're talking about like for electoral purposes, we could use more votes in Texas. We could use more votes in the Rust Belt as well, technically. I mean, the cost of living in Michigan is low. It is a beautiful state, and I wouldn't tell people not to move there, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people really want to move there from other places for whatever reason, but it is what it is. Ben Sinek says, I am convinced DeSantis' campaign is run by Tim Scott infiltrators. I don't know, maybe. Also, what are your thoughts on issue 1? We already covered it. Like I said, obviously, yes, passing would be good, because if they try to put the whole abortion thing in the Constitution, then they would not be able to do so without 60% of a threshold. But as a result, it does seem to be this issue where the big money is backing the no vote, and I don't think people will really be all that surprised if no ends up being the end result by a sizable margin. But it really is what it is. Let's see. Same question here from Mason S. Shout out to Mason S for the 5. K. Ben says, with GOP primary being over, should Trump bother going to the debates? I think he should skip the first ones and maybe attend the last few. I mean, I'd like the entertainment. I don't think it hurt him, but I don't think it's like going to help him a ridiculous amount if he does go. I think it's really just up to whatever his calculation is. If he loses support because he's not at the first debate, he's probably going to be at the second one. But I think he wants Fox's ratings to do bad because he's at a beef with Fox right now. And then he's probably going to do something else on debate night and somehow try to like beat their ratings and claim it as like a victory. So we'll see. Let's see. Christopher Laurie says, do you still think Georgia is still gone for Trump and the GOP? Georgia seems to be returning blue like Iowa returning red. I mean, I assume you mean turning, not returning. But yeah, I would say Georgia's not a state that's going to be easy for Republicans to win. I mean, Atlanta's growing, and it's growing pretty fast. And whatever we saw in the midterms there, I mean, good, I guess. You held most offices. You did well down ballot overall. But, having an incumbent governor can do that. And we saw that in a lot of other places where incumbent governors won states that they probably shouldn't have won. And presidential years are different. So I don't think Georgia's gone. But I think that in the long term, it's not looking good for the future prospects. Do I think Trump can win it in 2024? Yes. But does he need to win it? Not necessarily. He needs Wisconsin, Nevada, Pennsylvania. Those are the top 3. Georgia and Arizona, those are on tier 2 of states needed to be focused on. But like I said, if the third parties are really taking a couple of points away from Biden in a lot of these states and they do get on the ballot, yeah, Cornel West could screw over Biden in Georgia absolutely, single-handedly. So we'll see. Bruce Rice says, that is how you win. Thank you for the 20. Let's see. Tucson PaleoCon for 20 says, Sonenrod Ron is desperately trying to appeal to Jewish Republicans. Funnily enough, Trump will probably win the vast majority of their votes in the primary. Well, he's going to win every group in the primaries for the most part. He'll even win Mormon voters in the primary. Maybe not a majority of them, but a plurality. I mean, he's up in Utah. He was never up in Utah in the 2016 primary. He got completely shellacked. It was his worst performance nationwide, worse than D.C., got 13% of the vote there. But the polls have him ahead of Ron and everybody else there right now, so we'll see. John Waffle says, do you think you could persuade never-Trump neocons to change their views? Well, yeah, in real life, if they're like saying, I prefer DeSantis, but they tend to not be paying attention as much as people like us are paying attention. And the more they pay attention, the more they look into DeSantis, they flock to Trump. Now, the online class of influencers is vastly different than the real world, just like your average DC insiders are vastly different from the average voter base. And there is that disconnect. And as a Okay, we're back. I don't know what happened. We just dipped. We're gone for a second. All right, give me a second. Let me put the screen back on. Let's see. All right, we're back. We're back. I just lost. I'm gone. I was gone off the screen. I know I vanished. There we go. No, we're back. I accidentally hit the back button on my mouse. I didn't think it would actually try to kick me out of the studio, but we're back. So I don't know what we were talking about, but talking about the Never Trump neocons. Yeah, there's this disconnect between the base and the party insiders more so than anywhere else. Trump bridged the gap. DeSantis and people like that, they're not going to bridge the gap with the way they handle things. They're just not. And I think people in the future can bridge the gap. I don't think that I don't think you're going to see that this cycle with any of these other candidates. I mean, Vivek is trying, but Vivek is like somebody that speaks more to like the online base, I think, than your average voter, especially with his trade comments, which I don't even know what got into him to really say that, but that was not ideal. Nick W. says, please discuss Pennsylvania Supreme Court election, Daniel McCaffrey versus Carolyn Carluccio. I will talk about that as we get closer. I don't know a lot of what's going on currently at the state of the race, dynamics of the race, but we've been taking a lot of L's lately. So do I have high hopes for it? Not necessarily, but we'll see what happens. I mean, these court races are on off-year elections, and the number one issue and the number one thing that the donor money is pushing right now is the issue of abortion. That's not exactly going to help us right now on these low turnout elections. I'm not saying that it's going to hurt Trump in 2024. In fact, Trump makes it a non-issue. But with all the money that's being poured into these like off-year Supreme Court elections, it's going to fire up one side a lot more than it's going to fire up the other. And Republicans don't go on offense on the issue, and then they lose even more support. So Poster Tubbs, I don't know if it's the real Post-T or not, but we'll see, says we need to stop the anti-Americanism / pro-China or Russia sentiments in third world nations, and these types are usually anti-Israel. Well, the problem with that is, are you going to invade Malawi because they happen to like Xi Jinping? I don't think that's a very good use of resources. A lot of those countries are completely irrelevant. They're not backing Russia financially or China financially whatsoever. Sam Madsen said the pro-abortion amendment in Michigan got 56% in 2022. There will be one in Ohio this November and one in Missouri in 2024. What will those get? Well, the Michigan one surprisingly didn't even get as big of a share of the vote as it possibly could have, judging from the 56%. Now, we'll see what happens in November in Ohio. I think it might be closer than that. The Missouri one, that one I don't know if it, I mean, I'll assume that there's a chance that it passes, but I don't think it will pass by a lot. We'll see. John Waffles, his thoughts on Oppenheimer. Haven't seen it yet, so I can't give you my thoughts, but a lot of people are praising it as a good movie. Poster Tubbs says neither Trump or DeSantis are winning a general in 2024, praying that Cornel West and No Labels come in clutch. Well, I don't think that DeSantis has a shot. I think electorally he doesn't have a shot. On policy, I don't think he has much of a shot. I think personality-wise, he's not drumming up enough support, and I don't think he's really capable of it. I think Trump, you have a fighting chance. I think they're trying to bring him down for one reason. I think you can't really use the midterms for an example of his unviability per se, but it's not a cakewalk. It's not going to be a cakewalk either way, and they're weaponizing the justice system against Trump for one reason, because A, they know he's going to be the nominee. They know they can't really stop him from being the nominee, even if now at this point they would rather run against DeSantis, as some people in Biden's White House have said. But also, they know DeSantis, or they know Donald Trump can beat Biden. They know they could without the stuff they're throwing his way. They know he could do it. Not only is the polling looking good for him, he's got a lot of factors on his side, and Biden's unpopularity has gone through the roof. So we'll see. I don't know if No Labels is going to get their star candidate in Joe Manchin, but if they do, that definitely would help things out quite a bit. Buck Hunter 431 says, since Laxalt won't run, who should run in Nevada? I'll make a video about that next week, but I don't know. The bench is weak. Is Sam Brown even running? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's really all that of a star candidate overall. Security TV says, I get DeSantis wants to brag about how good Florida did during shutdowns, but here in the Shenandoah Valley, when ordered to lock down, nobody listened, and the outbreak was the lowest in the Commonwealth. Well, there was a lot of that, and even in like northern Michigan, you saw a lot of people defy the orders. In Texas, you saw a lot of people defy orders as well. So that's kind of the way that it is. I mean, I will say regarding the shutdowns, South Dakota, they didn't shut down. I don't think Noam should get credit for it because it was the state legislature that stopped anything from happening, but South Dakota didn't shut down. Look what happened there. I mean, South Carolina, even like Mississippi, as bad as Reeves was, he was probably one of the better governors when it came down to the lack of mandates. But you look at Florida, Florida gets all the credit. It's only because Florida is a big state with a lot of people. That's the one reason. The other reason is because conservative media has been propping up Ron DeSantis like crazy because he's the guy that really represents them more so than the base, and I think we've kind of seen that prove itself. Rubik's Cube says, from what I've gathered, the key states in the election for the presidency are Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. Is this analysis correct? I don't think it's correct. I think North Carolina probably goes red. I think Pennsylvania, that's going to be the tipping point. And then you have Wisconsin, Nevada, and technically Georgia and Arizona, you could throw them in the mix. But it's mainly going to come down to Pennsylvania. If Trump's the nominee and he doesn't win Pennsylvania, his path gets pretty hard because then he's going to need both Arizona, Georgia, and then he's going to need Nevada. But all those states matter. There's 5 states that count the most. North Carolina will be probably competitive, just like Michigan, depending on the election, especially if you have those third parties in there, could be competitive. But beyond that point, I think it really comes down to Pennsylvania, Nevada, Wisconsin. Those 3. Trump runs the table there. He's going to be the next president. He loses one of them, his path is extremely narrow, and it's not going to look too good for them. Steve J. says, I'm sensing a civil war brewing. Are you concerned DeSantis fans won't vote for Trump? No, I'm not concerned about that. We see this every single election cycle. I'm not going to vote for your candidate. I'm not going to vote for your candidate. And some people probably won't, and that goes for every single side of the political aisle. But at the end of the day, we'll see that. DeSantis people will say, I'm never voting for Trump. Then Biden does one dumb thing, and then they'll say, oh, fine, I'm going to stomach it. I'm going to vote for Trump. That's how it works. Now, the undecided voters that are going to wait until October to decide their votes or whatever, not that high in number, they probably are going to be more swayable down the stretch, but doesn't exactly matter. You're not going to see, 20, 10, or even like 8% of Republicans vote for Biden. I just don't believe you're going to see that. You're probably going to see that number be very low. The number of Democrats voting for Trump are also going to be very low. Independents depends on the state, depends on the educational demography of those independent voters. And that's something a lot of people that talk about, but the independents don't really understand. And it's funny now because DeSantis' numbers with independents are down significantly to the point where they're below in some polls, in some cases. Trump's numbers with independents, his point of strength that he was trying to tout is kind of out the window. So Poster Tub says, no invasions, just get the CIA to do its job. Well, the CIA doing its job could mean a lot of things, I guess. But we don't need any more intervention in terms of invasions. We don't need to be going out there and spending hundreds of billions of dollars and pushing certain campaigns and AstroTurf campaigns in certain countries. It's just a waste of resources. Sam Madsen says, does the pro-abortion amendment pass in Trumbull County like Ohio? I assume that's Ohio. Let me see. Yeah, it's Ohio. I would say probably. I mean, those places just don't care about the issue as much. A lot of those like Obama, Trump areas, they probably don't care. They don't care as much about abortion. Should they? Probably. Have they become more pro-life in recent years? Yes. But, when Romney was the nominee and he was talking about abortion 24/7 and talking about these other social issues, they didn't really back him because they just didn't care that much about the issue. So we have a lot to do regarding abortion within the culture. I'm not saying that some of these areas didn't have like Democrats who were pro-life, but I'm just saying that on the issue, they're a little bit more like in the middle about it, more so than all to one way or all to the other way. Garrett Vranikar says, have you heard anything about southeastern Pennsylvania trending blue? Condemns flip Lancaster, Berks, and Cumberland counties? No, not those three. If anywhere in southeastern Pennsylvania is moving blue, it's it's like Chester County, Delaware County, and they're doing pretty close to their max in a lot of those places, I would say, at least in presidential years, given kind of like the underlying educational demography of it. We need to focus on northeastern Pennsylvania. That's kind of a gold mine. Oz didn't do that poorly there compared to Trump in 2020 even, and I think that we really could see a rebound there, especially because of the whole Scranton Joe facade is kind of in the rearview mirror for a lot of people at this point. Brandon Sikora says, does anyone see what's happening as a possible collapse of America? Trump can win, but what's stopping national intel from stopping him? Well, I think that we talk about the collapse, and everyone's like, we're going to have this massive collapse. We're not going to make it to the next election. And every time we make it to the next election, the left thrives on incrementalism, which is something the right still doesn't fully seem to grasp. I mean, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, you could say, if it's not getting better, if we haven't reached that turning point, which I don't really believe we have. But either way, when it comes down to all this intel, it is a big part of it. I mean, you look at what the FBI did in 2020, colluding with social media to censor certain stories that were real about the Bidens, promote certain stories that were fake about Trump. Those definitely moved the needle. Now, thankfully, we have control of Twitter kind of now, and we didn't have that before. So at least maybe we could talk about it changing because a lot more people are aware to the underlying dynamics behind it, but we'll see. The DM Production says, thoughts on Wisconsin Supreme Court changing the district map? It's going to be unfortunate if they do. I will say that much. And this is why these off-year elections matter, but for some reason we can't seem to win them to really save our lives. So, Political Watcher says, Cindy McCain says Trump lost Arizona in 2020, then Kerry Lake lost in 2022 because they attacked McCain and alienated his supporters. Will Trump try to make amends to win Arizona in 2024? Well, here's the issue I have with that, is that regarding McCain, Trump basically was at his most vitriolic towards McCain as he ever was back in 2016. And while the state did move a little bit to the left in 2016, Trump still won the state by nearly 4%. And Lake's clip of her talking about McCain voters, which I think that's the problem. It's not attacking McCain when you're attacking like the McCain supporters. That clip didn't really go that viral until after the election. That clip was actually from an event. I believe I was at the event in late December 2021. And definitely they didn't really run. I mean, sometimes you saw it pop up here and there. There were some ads about it, and that definitely didn't help her. I don't think it's the one reason why she lost. But when it comes down to it, I don't think you need to make amends with the McCain family to win Arizona. I don't think DeSantis would be guaranteed Arizona. I think that might be a state where he might do a little bit better than Trump in. But nevertheless, either way, given his current numbers with independents, I don't even know if that's true. So I don't know how you make amends with that family. They're going to hate Trump no matter what. I think Trump needs to just answer directly to the people of Arizona. And probably, I mean, not attacking McCain as much, it doesn't necessarily hurt. But if somebody's going to be talking trash against Trump like McCain's family, he's going to hit back. He's going to hit back. Of course he's going to hit back. And as a result, like it or not, there may be some unintended consequences either way. But I do think you look at McCain's popularity in Arizona, and while he is popular among a significant, more swayable portion of the electorate, polls in 2018 and even polls recently show that he's not like this electoral god to a lot of these people. Nevada says, I got a Joe Biden ad before the stream. They're infiltrating us. Yeah, I don't know why they do that. They're wasting money. They can keep putting ads on my videos. It's not going to get them any support. More people are just going to be mad at Biden because obviously we don't support Biden here. So George S. Says, what's Chris Christie doing there? He's kind of funny and it's entertaining, but he appears out of nowhere to run for president. He's barely been a blip on the radar since 2016. He wants to run. He wants to go to all the buffets, eat all the free food, do what he can do, make the rounds, and I don't know what else he's going to do. He's going to roll around out there. That's what he does. He's Chris Christie. And we laugh at him. He's hilarious because he's just making a fool out of himself. There's no real, reason to make a video of why you shouldn't vote for Chris Christie instead of Trump in a primary, because he has no shot. And even DeSantis has no shot in the primary. Trump's going to get the nomination. Make no mistake about it. DeSantis may not even get second place. So at this point, a lot of my videos, as you can tell recently, we'll still talk about the primary. Obviously, we'll cover it when it happens, but we're kind of pivoting more slowly, ever so slightly, to the general election. So let's see. DM Production says, Obama Trumper here. McCain and Romney lost because they're the relics of the old Republican Party. Dole, the Bushes, Romney, McCain were all Reagan wannabes, overly religious moral politicians. Well, the thing is with the Reagan revolution that we saw, a lot of these Reaganites, people that will claim to be Reaganites, and they'll say Reagan is their political idol, their political aspiration, their hero. They need to understand that there's one Reagan. There's going to be one Reagan. Reagan did some things that were not so great. He did a lot of things that were great at the time for the Republican Party. His legacy now, however, has kind of just molded itself into, every establishment politician, they go out there and they talk about how much they love Reagan, and, we have this kind of cold economic approach or whatever, and it's they wonder why they're failing with younger voters and young turnout. And I put a video out on my website today where I talk about this, and it's true, because you're going to have to move on at some point. I'm not saying you can't praise Reagan for anything, but what I'm saying is this overt, idolization of Reagan is just weird. It's just bizarre to a certain extent. And even though Trump is kind of the guy right now, 20, 30 years from now, hopefully you will have the ability to kind of build on that. And that's the problem. Reagan laid a foundation. If you had a Buchanan type after Reagan, you would have built on Reaganism. What did we see? We saw the Bushes. We saw more of a more neoconservative approach. And that wasn't good for the Republican Party. It wasn't good for really anything. And then Trump comes along, and he's kind of a more marketable type of a Buchanan in a way, and kind of focuses on, rebuilding the American dream. And we see that there in his presidency. We saw some great things happen, and then we saw some, falling short in some areas, I guess you could say. And then from there, what do? You're going to have to build on that. You're going to have to build on it with something else, and trying to say, no, we need to go back to the ways of old and whatever. We see that. Even their foreign policy of all the Reaganites doesn't even fully resemble Reagan's. That was probably one of Reagan's strong points. I wouldn't say that it was 100% perfect necessarily, but what did he do? He de-escalated the Cold War. He kind of ended it there. That was good. You saw the fall of communism with the Soviet Union. So What exactly do a lot of these people in the Republican establishment, what are they focusing on when they talk about Reagan? We're going to have tax cuts and then nothing else. And it's I'm not even opposed to cutting taxes here and there. I think Trump's tax plan was fine. I wish that the middle class cuts were made permanent, which it does seem as if Trump recently talked about that in a recent speech, which is good that he brought that up. But it's they want certain elements, and then that's all they sell to people. And it's you need to build a coalition. You can't say, we're going to do this one thing economically, then nothing else. And it's it doesn't work that way. You got to build a coalition. You got to expand a coalition. And you got to talk about modern issues. What Reagan talked about in the 1980s, fine. We're in 2024 almost. We're in 2023 technically still. But it's a 2024 election cycle. And you're going to have to start targeting younger voters. And the way that you have this approach to Generation Z, they're unserious, they shouldn't have a seat at the table, whatever. that you see the Republicans doing. You're ceding a lot of ground there. And we see these recent polls come out that show that Gen Z men, a lot of them are disaffected. They lean more conservative, technically. At least the people that say they have a political ideology. But do Republicans do anything to get these people to turn out? Exactly, no. They just follow a diet version of the left's moral framework, thinking that they're going to like pick off some younger voters in the process, and it never works. It never works at all. So, I don't know. They need to change something pretty quickly here. Let's see. One more super chat. This will be the last call for super chats. Final call. If you have a super chat, send it now. I know it's getting late. It's 11 o'clock on the East Coast. It's 10:11 here in Central Time. But if you have any more super chats, now's the time. In the next 30 seconds, send them in. Otherwise, we may not get to read them. And I would hate to leave you hanging, but you have been warned. So, Samuel Harrison says thoughts on Brett Cooper. I don't really have a lot of thoughts on her. I know she's more like libertarian than I am, so I'm not like a giant fan. Also, she kind of is a little astroturfed, which maybe you could just say is good social media, but the fact is, a year ago, I remember stumbling across her channel. She had like 20,000 subscribers. And then now, today, she has north of 3 million. So it's like interesting. Either A, that's good social media, which is good in terms of a business perspective, or B, there's some astroturfing. And I know Shorts is definitely a part of that, YouTube Shorts. And definitely we're going to tap into certain things to really take this channel to the next level. I want to hit 1 million subs at some point, but I don't necessarily have any big money backing me. So it's going to be a little bit of a tougher journey, but maybe we'll make it happen. I don't know. So, other than that, we don't have any super chats. So we may be ending the stream here in about a minute or so. But we'll look at regular chat as well. Some guy is spamming. Yeah, you're going to be in timeout. No spam. I put on the slow mode, and they still think they can spam and get away with it. Ricky was here, says, looked at r/Yapamess, got strong thoughts on you. Yeah, I have some strong thoughts on them too, technically. But no, they're just, in many cases, they're just A-logs. They have no exact legitimate critiques. In many cases, they take what I say out of context. Many times, they do that. I've gotten people send me certain threads, and it's like, seriously, we're up against Reddit. We're up against election people on Reddit, I guess now. I don't know. But they have strong thoughts on me. A lot of those thoughts are negative, but even deep down, I think that they know. They know not to underestimate my power. We know that, and it is what it is. It's the election mafia. They've been around for years. They've been on Atlas. They've been on Twitter. Twitter's probably the worst of all. But then, yeah, you do have little pockets of Reddit and other places here and there. They like to A-log. They like to talk a lot of trash, and in many cases, they just straight up manipulate what I say. And it is what it is. They've been doing that to me for 4 years now. Ever since I've started, we've had people that have been doing that sort of thing. But it is what it is. So Miss Winnie says McCain gave P-Doc to FBI, but wife says he couldn't save kids from Epstein. Awful lifestyle, raised in swamp, horrible to first wife, naval AC dunce. Thank you for the super chat. I don't know much about McCain's personal life on that front, but the bottom line is a lot of people will talk trash about Trump for being, 3-time married now, twice divorced. And you look at people like McCain that have had their failed marriages. You look at people like Gingrich and all these other members of the Republican establishment that have been in and out of marriages. Everyone likes to trash Trump for one thing or another that they're also guilty of, but that's the way the media runs with it. They just don't like the fact that Trump is not exactly a member of their club, so that's what they're doing. They will utilize their media. They will utilize very many elements of power. We see that with the FBI against Trump. We see that with the justice system against Trump, because Trump is not a part of the same NEOCON, neo-lib, uniparty club that these people are a part of. Based Cato says, thoughts on woke Bud Light going more broke? I think it's hilarious. We finally won a battle against a woke corporation. It could really only work if it's like Bud Light, it really seems. But it is true. They lost their demographic. They get branded as like the alphabet beer now. And rightfully so, because they did something that was just disgraceful, for lack of a better term. And what did we do? We mocked them. We made fun of them. We ran it into the ground. We rebranded them. Then they tried to hit back. They fired the crazy lady behind it. And then they went out there and they tried to put out all these like pro-America ads. And then they lost even more support. And we're just pointing and laughing at them. They're getting ratioed everywhere. They could not win regardless. It's laughable. So Wholesome DJ Aftershock said, we're losing 2024 because my special election. Dem D plus 10 overperformance. Well, I mean, in all seriousness, it is a problem. I'm not going to say it's not a problem. But yeah, they're probably not going to have much impact on a 2024 election. Just like 2018 didn't really have that much impact on 2020. So C Workout Channel says, any advice to start a career in politics? I'm 30. I assume AL means Alabama. Just look up your local party. See if you can get involved and kind of network there. And I don't know, go to their dinners if they have any, go to their events if they have any, network, build connections. And I don't know, maybe you can get enough support where you'd be able to run for some political office. It might have to be something local, but you can't really shy away from local or statewide politics if you really do want to make it to the national stage at some point. But it also depends what does that exactly mean, career in politics? Do you want to be a political consultant, work for a firm? I mean, I don't know what you really mean by that, but there's a lot of different things that you could do. Linerex52 says, any primary Republicans you see as Trump appointees? Vivek would. Honestly, this is an interesting proposal I've thought of, which again, it sounds bad at first, but it makes a lot of sense. He needs to put Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott in his cabinet, because he could put Lindsey Graham as Secretary of Transportation, which is something that he's not going to do any damage at. And then you could put Tim Scott as like Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. And you get to remove 2 weak senators from the United States Senate. And in turn, you have your MAGA, America First Governor, Henry McMaster. He can appoint 2 very solid senators to the Senate there. He could appoint Norman, he could appoint Duncan, and you'd have 2 of the best senators in the entire nation. Now, obviously, not a fan of Graham, not a fan of Scott, but the problem with Trump appointing Haley, because this is kind of what he did with her, is he appointed her to a foreign policy position, which that wasn't good, because then she got to dictate foreign policy. She got to be that ambassador to the UN, which was not something good. But it would make a lot of sense if they would take those positions, because what it would do, Trump will reward them, gets them out of the way. That's actual 4D, 5D chess. Will it happen? I don't know. But if it did, people are going to be like, why is he putting these people in his cabinet? But in reality, they're remedial positions. They don't really do anything. And you get 2 very solid senators and 2 massive upgrades in return. Colin Shaw Indie Game says, if for some reason Trump cannot run, they Epstein him in jail or something. I don't know if that's going to happen. Who do you like and what are their odds? Well, I don't know. You'd see more people hop in. We'd make that determination when we'd make that determination. But I don't think they're going to do that to Trump. I think that would cause a massive uproar. That would be a disaster. And I would hope that would never happen, obviously. But let's see. We also have Leon Alfaro for the members chat saying senators like Romney have to leave. Well, we have to work on that. Also, Leon Alfaro gifted a membership. Thank you, Leon, for gifting a membership. I don't know who it went to, but you guys can gift memberships technically if you guys would like. Sam Madsen says, I see fewer Trump flags and signs in rural Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa now than I did even last year at this time, despite the fact he's running now and he wasn't then. Whatever the reason is, that's a problem. I don't know. Maybe people just left them up because of the election in 2020, and I don't know. We'll see. I don't really like yard sign analysis. It can show certain enthusiasm, but it's not really always all that accurate. But we'll see. If it's like that next year, that's kind of more of a problem than it is if it's like that this year. They probably got to update the flags a little bit. The Keep America Great doesn't exactly hold up. And the Trump 2020 sign should be replaced with the Trump 2024 sign. And a sign with Mike Pence's name on it is probably not going to be a thing leading up to 2024. So there's that aspect. But I think we'll end the stream. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like the stream before you go. Subscribe to the channel before you go. If you are new, hit that bell so you don't miss another video, another stream. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. I will see you all in the next one. Red Eagle, out.